Hello, this is Stuart Nachbar with Educated Quest. With me today is Amanda Riley. Amanda is a junior at Clarkson University, majoring in engineering and management. It's a single major with business and engineering. She's minoring in a law program with the goal of going to law school. Amanda juggles an engineering and management education, varsity softball, and ROTC. That's a big juggling act for a college student. No matter who you are, where you come from, Clarkson University is a very special place. I haven't had a chance to be there, which is why I wanted Amanda to join me today. It's got just over 3,100 undergrads on its main campus. It's a much smaller school for engineering and business and media arts, science than a lot of others people consider. But it's also been a school that's very supportive of the students that want to be there. There's some very generous scholarships. There's a lot of work that the school does to make it affordable. The other thing that makes it unique, and Amanda knows far more about this than anyone, is you're in the picturesque Adirondacks. Now, if you're from New Jersey or New York State, you've probably thought of this as the place you went on vacation. Maybe you went camping or fishing or boating or hiking. But Clarkson is set in this beautiful region of the country. It's a very mountainous area. There's lots of skiing and hiking and things to do, lots of distractions. But it's far from a major city. You're about an hour and a half from Montreal. It's not like going to a school where you're right outside New York or Philadelphia. Amanda comes from Marlton, New Jersey, Marlton, New Jersey,
Marlton, New Jersey.
which is not far from Philadelphia. So, Amanda, I guess when you come home, you have an easier ride into Philadelphia than you might into Montreal.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, Amanda, which of these interests came first in your life, engineering, softball, or military service?
I'd have to say that softball probably came first. I started playing softball when I was, well, yeah, now everyone plays t-ball when they're like 6 years old. And then I ended up getting on a travel team when I was 12. And just from there, I just kept playing. So I would say softball came first, but the military came very soon after.
And when did you realize that you could compete in softball and do ROTC in college?
I always kind of figured that if I was if I was able to figure it out and if I had enough time in the day that I would be able to do it. I ended up coming up to so the only reason why I found out about Clarkson was because the softball coach emailed me. And I think I was a sophomore at the time. So I was like, okay, like I'll go to the softball camp, I'll see what it's like. So I went up there and I was telling, I was like, oh yeah, I was looking at this school, I was looking at that school. I really want to like be an army officer when I graduate. And then one of the girls that was on the team came over to me and she goes, hey, she goes, I'm at ROTC. And I was like, yeah. And then she's literally spent probably the next half hour talking about ROTC and softball and how it works and how my coach has even said, she's like, the army is your future and softball was not always going to be here. So she even understands that the army is going to come first at times. So everyone, it's just a very good team. Like it's a lot of teamwork between my coach and me and a lot of good communication. But even ROTC, like they'll work with my coach and be like, oh, Amanda has a game. Okay, she can't be at lab today or something like that.
So, how did you come to decide? You came to decide on Clarkson after you had been to the softball camp?
It was very soon after I went to the softball camp. Yeah, because I'd been to a few other schools in New Jersey, and I mean the whole idea of being that close to home, I wasn't a huge fan of. But so there was that, and then it was also just I love like the area because we're literally in the middle of nowhere. We have like two gas stations in town and three restaurants and a Walmart. But I mean, it's really just nice because, like you said, like the Adirondacks are a half hour away at some points. Like I'm gonna go skiing with my friends on Sunday, so it's really fun to be able to kind of plan stuff to go outside and do stuff.
If you had to do a 30-second spot for Clarkson, what would you try to get into that spot to get people to know why you like the school and who might like the school?
I would say that Clarkson is the kind of school where it really does feel like a family. And you always like some people struggle if they go to a big school. They feel like they have a hard time fitting in, but Clarkson really doesn't Really doesn't do that. I'm gonna be honest with you. No one's really clicky, no one really starts problems. Clarkson also has a 97% job placement rate. So with that rate, you know that you're kind of ready for success when you graduate, and all the teachers and all the advisors are really here to make sure that everyone succeeds. So I mean, that's really what makes Clarkson different than a lot of other schools.
Now, how did the team and how did the college help you get settled? What did they do to help you get into your major, manage your time?
So, as far as Clarkson goes, Clarkson has all their freshmen come up, like, the weekend before everyone else moves in, just so they can kinda get a feel of campus and, like, no one else is really there, it's just all the freshmen. And my freshman year, now this was before COVID, so they did it different this year, but my freshman year, they did it where they had, like, this group come in and we did all these, like, team bonding stuff, and that, like, it was just kinda to get to know everybody and, like, get warmed up because you're a freshman, you walk in there, like, it's okay to be a little awkward and feel a little uncomfortable, but they really worked hard, and even our RAs, like, they would have us go outside, do activities, and get to know each other and hang out. So they really made a big effort to kind of get to know everybody. And then as far as my major with from Clarkson, it was just I read about the major, I talked to the advisor, and the advisor was like, "Hey, this is what's going on," and I was like, "I like that." Like, I saw the curriculum, and engineering and management has such a different curriculum than a lot of other degrees. Like, I had to take a public speaking course. Never in my entire life, I know I love public speaking, but never in my entire life did I think that at Clarkson I'd have to take a public speaking course. I was like, it's an engineering school, but I've gotten the opportunity to take a lot of really cool courses that I think give me a different perspective. Like right now, I'm in a business ethics class. It's really interesting to read about and kind of figure it all out. But like going into Clarkson, I didn't expect to have to take a class like that, but it's a cool class that I get to take. And then as far as with softball, my coach has this rule where we have study tables. So it's like for 2 hours a day for 4 days out of the week, we have to go and we all have to meet in this classroom. And as a freshman, you have to go first semester. And then after first semester, if you get a 3.0 or above, you don't have to go anymore. But you just go there and you study for 2 hours, you get homework done. It's like a quiet time. And that's really what coach did to kind of try and make sure that we all were able to stay on our academics and stay focused and be successful for the future. Because once we're in the springtime, our season gets a little crazy.
Most of your teammates are in science and engineering?
Most of my teammates, I'm gonna be honest, we have a wide variety. We have some engineering. I have one teammate who's I think she's an aero and a mechie, which I don't know how she does that, but she's able to do it somehow. My roommate who's on the team, she's a biomolecular something. I don't know. There's bio majors, there's psych majors, there's engineering majors. I think the least we have is really business majors. I think we have maybe one or two business majors. So that's really kind of where we're limited.
So, given that there's such a variety of majors, your coaches have your class schedules, and they know when you have a lab or you have a tutoring session or something like that that you must go
Mhm.
to.
Yeah, right. So as soon as we set up our schedules, we'd like take a picture of it, we send it to coach, and then this week she sent us out spreadsheets and was like, "Hey, fill in when you're available. I want to start planning practices and lifts and stuff like that."
Now, how does military science and education fit into your curriculum? How does it fit in every semester?
I just add so my freshman year it was a 1 credit class, then my sophomore year it's a 2 credit, and then this year it's a 3 credit, just the number of hours that we spend in the classroom. Because as like we get older, we have a bit more we gotta know. But so it just I would just add it to the schedule. I've always been able to make it work. There's sometimes when some people they're not able to usually they're able to go to the class, but we also have a lab that we have to go to for 2 hours once a week. And some students have a hard time being able to go to that lab because of a class conflict. But usually we're able to make it work and I've never had a problem with it. And my advisors have always been super understanding, like we need to get this class in the schedule. So
How are there military exercises as well for fitness that have to be matched up with a workout schedule for softball?
so how it works, so we have to do PT 3 times a week in the morning. It's usually from like 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. So that's usually like in the fall semester, that's what we were doing. Now because of like we're going into the spring semester, because I'm in season right now, I don't have to go to PT necessarily. I mean, I still do go to PT because I think that it's beneficial, but it's not required that I go to PT. So if there's a conflict between a practice and PT, or I have a lift at the same time as PT, they understand that and they just leave me be.
Now, how did all this change during the pandemic?
It was different, I'm gonna be honest. Um, so at PT now for ROTC, we always have to have a mask on, and right now because we have about a foot of snow on the ground right now, so we have to be inside, but because we have to be inside and because we all just got back to campus, we're not allowed to go in the gym. So right now we're doing dorm PTs where they send us a PT of, like, what we're doing each day, and then we just have to do it in our dorm room, which I've gotta say, really does not I'm really not a big fan. But it works, I mean, it's something. And then we've also been limited on some stuff with, like, our labs for ROTC and stuff like that, with what we can and can't do.
Will you have a softball season?
I'm hoping. Right now, coach has games on the schedule, so I'm hoping that we're gonna have a season, but I was told that we're definitely gonna know by March 1st. So I'm hoping we'll have a season. I think we'll probably have something because right now, COVID up here isn't as rampant as it is in other places. So I think we should have a few games here or there.
Clarkson being a more rural area, do if students did get, were tested positive, would they go to a medical center nearby, or is there a place on campus they would go if they had to quarantine?
We have some dorms that are set aside on campus that are they're just if, like, there's dorms if you tested positive, and there's dorms if you were exposed, and they're just quarantining dorms where they just stay there for 2 weeks.
And did you have to go home last year?
Like, my sophomore year?
Yeah, last spring. Did you have to go home?
Yeah, so we were down in Florida for softball, and then it was in the middle of COVID, it was, like, March 18th or something like that, and then when the CDC set out that we can't have more than 50 people in an area, that's when we got sent back up to Clarkson, and we had to leave, like, the next day to get out of there.
Oh, wow. So you come
Yeah,
back
it was stressful.
you come back to campus, you have to get home to New Jersey,
Yep.
really, really quickly. And did the school help you with that?
So I just took up I just took home as much as I could. I just took home some clothes and, like, my softball stuff, but a lot of the stuff I just left up here because I didn't know if we were gonna be able to come back later in the semester or not. But then when we found out that we weren't gonna be able to come back later, the Clarkson, they ended up going into my room, so, like, my coach's stuff, and she, like, packed my stuff up and then sent it home to me.
Nice. Now, you came back in the fall. You
Mhm.
came back to campus. What did the university need to do in the way of helping people in the dining hall, people go to class?
So we have a system as far as dining goes where there's, like, a website that we have to go on, and we order our meal from there, and depending on where you order it, I know, like, in our servery, we have it where you'll get a text when your food is ready, and it'll have a little code, and we have these little, like, cubby boxes, kinda like Wheel of Fortune, or, like, I think it's like we it's yeah, it's like there's a bunch of colors, and you scan it, and then, like, your box opens, and then that's your food. So that's how we do it at the one dining hall, and then the other one, you just walk in at the time that you scheduled, because they just wanna limit how many people are going in there at a time.
So after you got your food, you take it somewhere else and you sit
Yes.
down and you sit down. You can take it back to your room, eat outside if it's warm enough outside, that kind of thing.
Mhm. Yeah, you either eat it and you bring it home, like, bring it back to your room, or you just eat outside. But right now, it's a little chilly for that.
But, now with classes, did they have you, like, did they have you take classes in person when you came back? Or did they have you, like, in a hybrid setting, like your half of your class is online, half is in a classroom? How were your classes managed?
We're in a hybrid setting right now, so you have 1 class in person, then you have 2 classes online. Excuse me, if it's a 3-credit class. If it's a 2-credit class, you might have 1 in person and then 1 online. A lot of my classes this semester are online except for my ROTC class, but a lot of them are just online just because it kinda makes life easier, and a lot of the professors are older, so they don't wanna risk getting sick. So if they can just do it online and keep themselves and their family safe, they'd rather do that.
And so you're in your room at Clarkson right now, where you're
Mhm.
talking to me. When you have a class, is it like one class after another and you're parked in the chair?
No, generally, I have probably at least a 20-minute break between classes. So I get to walk around, I'll go and grab coffee or something like that.
And you could use the library, or are there certain restrictions for that?
We don't really have a library per se. Our library is kind of small because most of it's online, but we have this thing called it's the ERC, and it's this huge building. They have these tiny study rooms where you can go in, and then they also have this big area where, like, there's just tables everywhere and you can sit and study. So like that's a really good study place, and we can use it right now as long as you wear a mask. You can use it.
And do you, and when, if you have group projects, can you use those study rooms to meet as a group?
Yep, yeah. We just have there's like an iPad outside each door, and you just schedule the time that you want to go, and then the group can go then.
And what do you like most about Clarkson since you've been there? Something maybe that you didn't know about until you had spent some time there.
I'm gonna be honest. I have to say it's the people. I've never had a bad experience. I mean, I'm from Jersey, so you're driving around, we get a little aggressive. You're in Walmart, you look the other way, like you don't really like. You're not like it's not really a very friendly like area. Not talking bad about it, but it's not as friendly as up here. Like up here, I'll see somebody. I'll see the lady that I saw yesterday that gave me my lunch, and I'll be like, "Oh hi, like how you doing?" And like she remembers me, and like we'll have conversations. Like you just build bonds with people that like you wouldn't expect because that's just not what I'm used to. But everyone is so friendly. Like there was one time my freshman year it snowed and I was being dumb and I turned too quick and I ended up in a snowbank and it wasn't even 10 seconds later some random stranger got his tow rope out of his car, attached it to the back of my car and then pulled me out.
Oh,
I didn't
wow.
even like get a chance to like think about what had just happened. He had already had me out and I was like, "Oh, thank you." Like it didn't click to me. But just the people up here are so kind and they're just so like everybody it's like a team. Like everybody wants to work together and help each other. So I really do like that. And I didn't realize that until I came up here.
Now, after this semester, are you going to be doing something with the Army, or can you intern somewhere else if you wanted to?
So the army has this thing between your junior and your senior year. It's called advanced camp, and that's kind of where we get tested on the things that we learned the past 3 years. So they'll test us on, I think we have to shoot. We do like a rappel, and then we get tested a lot on different lanes, like whether you're doing like a recon or an attack, and it's really just testing your leadership and seeing how proficient you are and seeing if you can lead soldiers. And then I also applied for an Army JAG internship that I'm hoping to get this summer, but I never know.
Where would that internship take place if you got it?
I'm honestly not sure. So when the Army sends out a packet of all these internships that you can apply to, and it didn't explicitly say on the packet where like the JAG internship would be, I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to make it like the closest base to me. So like that would be Fort Dix, but I'm not really sure.
And would it be on base, or might it be virtual given the climate we're in right now?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it would be. There wasn't a ton of information on that. I think we're all just kind of hoping COVID's gonna go away.
I wish there was a military solution to COVID.
Me too.
I mean, it's just very difficult. I would imagine, did your friend, when you had to go home, did you see friends from high school who also had to come home?
I would say a lot of my friends from high school were home before I was even home. Clarkson really tried to keep us up here as long as possible.
And let me ask you this: if you could tell your younger self anything you wish you knew in high school about going to college, especially going to Clarkson in general, what would that be?
Mhm.
What would you tell younger Amanda?
I think younger Amanda could benefit from understanding that while academics are very important, academics are not everything. And when I was younger, I would really stress over my grades, my grades, my grades. And now I've kind of reached a point where no, like I need to have a balance of my friends, softball, ROTC, and then also, of course, my grades. Like, of course, I get my assignments done, but just being able to understand that it's not going to be perfect 24/7. Because if you try for perfection all the time, that can be very stressful.
I totally agree with you, and I think probably you have so much to juggle
Mhm.
that I gotta wonder, do you sometimes forget something along the way in all the juggling?
There have been I usually have all my ROTC stuff together because if I don't, I'm getting yelled at. There have been a few occasions where I missed like a homework here or there, and there was one time. So for ROTC, we have to go to it's like a training for the weekend, and this one was with a few other schools, which was I mean it's a great opportunity. It's a lot of fun, but I ended up not telling my coach before I left that I wasn't going to be at practice because I had to go to that. So I'm on my way back, and I get a text from my coach, and she's like, "Amanda, where are you?" And I'm like, "Oh." I am so sorry. I completely forgot. Like, I was so focused on going to ROTC stuff that I forgot to even tell my coach where I was going. So, I mean, there's a few times when I slip up, but I'm usually pretty on top of it.
You don't show up for softball practice in military gear, and you don't show up for military stuff in softball gear.
I mean, there's been a few times I've gone to practice in uniform, but that was usually because I had a class or a lab right before.
Now, outside of what other things do you like to do when you need to take a break? Do you take advantage of the outdoors? Do you or do you do things on campus? What are some things you want to do when you want to take a break from being on a softball team, taking engineering courses, or doing things in ROTC?
I mean, my friends and I this past semester, we had a lot of fun hiking. There's this really cool waterfall like 45 minutes away. So we went to that and we all like it was like I think it was in September, so it's still pretty warm. So we all were swimming and stuff. There's a lot of hiking. There's like there's a lot of people up here that are 46ers, so they've been to all 46 peaks in the Adirondacks. So we kind of like we'll go hiking. There isn't a ton to do around here, I'm gonna be honest. But if you like the outdoors, like I go skiing once a weekend just to kind of get out and do something because especially with COVID, we're kind of stuck in our rooms for a lot of the day. So to be able to go out during the weekends and hang out. There's also like a drive-in movie theater, which that is unknown to me in New Jersey. So when I heard
Hmm.
about that, me and my friends, we all went, and that was a pretty cool thing. We all hung out and watched the movies, and that was pretty cool.
Does everyone live on campus?
Most people live on campus. There's another school in town. They're right across the river from us. That's probably like a 10-minute walk from here. So, but that they also have a lot of on-campus housing. So there isn't a ton of off-campus housing that like I mean there is some, but most people just live on campus because it's easier. You're closer to everything, and with the snow, it's a lot easier if you can walk to class instead of having to drive to get onto campus.
And where do you think you'll live next year?
I'm hoping to live in a Woodstock next year, so that's like an apartment kind of style. Right now, I'm in Morehouse, so it's 2 rooms and like they're connected by a bathroom.
And are you guys responsible for the bathroom, or does someone come in and clean it?
Usually, they just come in and clean it. Every once in a while, I'll go in there with like a broom or something like that and just take care of it. But usually they'll come in. I think with COVID, they kind of have to come in here and clean everything. I don't think they really have a choice.
That's what I was wondering too, because I think with COVID, cleanliness has to be at a higher standard than
Hmm.
it is now. What would you like to do after you graduate?
So after I graduate, the main goal is to go to law school and then to get and then and well, I need the army to first approve me to go to law school. And then once they do that, then I'll go to law school and graduate and be a JAG officer. That's the goal.
And do you think that the education you have will help you become an effective attorney when you combine it with a law degree?
I think it will. And I mean, the main reason why is that a lot of lawyers they major in criminal justice. And I mean, that's a great major and I'm not talking anything bad about that, but the way a criminal justice major thinks and the way that like an engineering major would think are a little different. Like I interned with a family lawyer near me this summer and I also did again this winter because he needed extra help. And that the way that he would explain how he would do things and the way that I would do things, my way was a bit more analytical little quicker, like a tax return, or what they paid, what their expenses were. And I would just do it on Excel, sit there and write every number down. And I'm like, no, boss. I'm like, if we just do this on Excel, we can just add it up and I don't need to break out a calculator. So just kind of like doing like little things like that where like he thinks a little differently than I do. But then of course there's sometimes when he's just like, no, Amanda, you're wrong. We need to do it this way. So,
Now,
but
now you and I have one thing in common, and we're both from New Jersey. And if you were to talk to someone from a less suburban part of New Jersey, maybe it might be Newark, it might be Jersey City, it might be Vineland, closer to where you're from, Atlantic City, what would you tell them about going to Clarkson that they should be prepared to do or know?
it's gonna snow. It's gonna snow a lot. I was told that it doesn't snow that much up here. I was then later informed that New York versions of it doesn't snow that much up here, and my version of it doesn't snow that much up here are 2 very different things. And I would also say that you really gotta get creative with, like, what you can do because there isn't a lot to do off campus. There's, like, 4 restaurants, there's a Walmart. Walmart, honestly, has gotten very entertaining some days. But, I mean, there really isn't a ton to do, so you kinda gotta get a little creative. Like, I bought a bouncy ball maker kit, and I'm gonna do that with my friends, like, we'll hang out and watch movies. So you really just gotta get creative. So if you're the kind of person that wants to go out every single day, I mean, at least as long as COVID's here, that's really not gonna work. But, I mean, once COVID's over, it'll probably be okay.
So, and because of the kinds of academics you have, are fraternity parties, sorority parties, is that a big part of the campus life?
There are Greek life's pretty big. It's not huge though. Like you can I know like 2 or 3 people that are in Greek life, but that's not like a big part of campus. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of like so at Clarkson we have speed teams, which are like they're also teams that like there's like a Baja team where they build like a Baja and they just build all these different things. There's like a steel bridge team and those teams are probably just about as big as our Greek life is on campus, to be honest with you. Which is kind of weird to think about, but like Greek life isn't the main push. There's like 3 or 4 houses on campus, so if you wanna go to a party on a Friday or Saturday night, they usually do have parties, but that's not they're not a huge part of campus, I would say.
And if you had to do it all over, would you do everything all over again?
Oh, yes, I would be here. I would do the same thing I did. I have 0 regrets about being here.
Amanda, thank you for spending this time with me this afternoon, and also thank you for the opportunities you're taking advantage of to serve our country.
Of course, not anything. I'm happy to do it.
And I wish you only success.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And this is Stuart Nachbar with Educated Quest. Thank you for listening.